So Matthieu Blazy debuted his first Chanel Metiers d'Art collection this week, and we were all waiting with bated breath, weren't we, about what this collection could entail. But I must say, having seen him open up the show with, quite frankly, a Shein or Zara quality pullover, I have some questions and some mixed thoughts about how this whole collection went down. And people are asking valid questions around whether Chanel is still Chanel. I haven't seen all of the pieces in the collection. I thought we would do that today together. But of course, I have seen some of the key wrap-ups, summaries, some key standout pieces, and discern whether it's just me that has these mixed opinions. But before we do that, let's just set the scene a little bit in case you have not seen the collection. And this particular show is one we all look out for each year because this is actually an homage to the ateliers of the fashion house. It showcases their ability to push boundaries in the fashion world and showcase true craftsmanship, obviously with the seasonality in mind, right? So with it being autumn, winter, you're gonna see pieces that are going to reflect the season. Now for Matthieu Blazy himself, this is his first collection. This is his debut with this particular showing, but overall this is actually his second collection for Chanel, his first one being in October of this year, and he held it at the Grand Palais in Paris. It was like a solar system theme. It was pretty out there. Also, it had mixed reviews from a lot of us normies out there, I would say in particular. We're kind of looking with this collection in particular, Metiers d'Art, with bated breath on what he would be able to produce, and obviously with the Metiers d'Art collection symbolizing and signifying so much for the house, we obviously had naturally high expectations. So the showing happened, it was in the New York City subway. They actually held it in the Bowery Street subway. I think it was actually the subway station itself. It wasn't a set. I think they had a real train running through, dropping the models off. Given that they're trying to appeal to a younger audience, this also makes a lot of sense. I would love to see them one day, as a side note, do the London Tube. That would be interesting, but they managed to clean the station up really, really nice, as a lot of the locals have remarked. And Chanel is pretty well known for doing very disruptive and unique location scouting as well. Cue a lot of the Karl Lagerfeld crazy collections like the rocket ship, like the seaside, all of that, which is super, super fun. And obviously New York being a hub for fashion, it makes so much sense. So that was fantastic, and obviously had a lot of high hopes. Then I saw some of the pieces. I got promotional emails, you know, hyping me up as a Chanel customer. Didn't actually believe this was from Chanel. It's been some time since they've wrote to me. I'm not really a routine customer right now, but I got this. This is a Chanel promotional email, and this is the cover photo that they chose. It's a model in a quarter zip pullover with a pair of jeans and a slouchy Chanel flat bag. And, you know, I got this separate email for the promotional video of the collection, and, you know, you could peruse the link. So we are going to do that shortly. Now, I am not going to be watching the whole video with you guys. It is 16 minutes long, but you can do that of your own accord. We're going to maybe do some quick fire and share some thoughts, but we will talk about the standout pieces and just the takeaways as a whole of this particular collection. And of course, it opens with the model who is going super viral. I think her name is Bavika, a student actually at NYU who got scouted by Blazy in, I think it's Bottega days. So she opened up the show. Stunning model, right? But she's in this pullover look. This is a pretty unexpected opener. Questionable. There were definitely better looks, I would say, in the collection, even if they're not looks that I would go for. You can see she's walking around the subway here. But you know what? Even though objectively I would wear this walking Pebbles, you know, I have a pullover ironically that looks like this, it just doesn't read as Chanel DNA. If you were to think of the quintessential Chanel girl or the Chanel look, you would think tweed, camellias, tailoring, pearls even. But those are the types of qualities that make Chanel. And I think there's a fine balance between honouring the fashion house's code with also evolving and pushing boundaries. I believe it is possible. Karl did that. Even Virginie to a degree, who I honestly didn't really like much as a creative director. But compared to this, I feel like was, you know, at least paying homage to the heritage of the brand. It felt more aligned to luxury streetwear. Now this look is very nice. I believe this is actually from some of the research that I've done, this is a reference to Babe Paley, who was, I think, a socialite of some sort. Then you've got some nice leather jackets, But is that what Chanel's really known for? I don't think so. That's not to say that they are siloed by any means, but if you told me this was a show for Balenciaga or Gucci or Miu Miu, I probably wouldn't bat an eyelid. The leopard one is nice, and you know, this suit, beautiful. Love that suit. I think it's also very, very festive. Love the classic slingbacks and all of that. But then you've got some odd looks that really feels like they're trying to make fetch happen with Chanel, but it's just not who Chanel is. So let's press see the looks. Okay, Metiers Dart 2026. Now, of course, we've talked about the zip pullover. I really don't know why they keep pushing that as the poster child of this collection. Every brand is doing this, so it's not my favourite. And let's be honest, it's not going to be cheap either. They didn't even have the decency to put a CC logo there, do you know what I mean? It might be on the gold hardware zip. Some rich bitches out there who can afford it and want to flex will probably buy this, and it will probably be around $3,000-$4,000. But I've got a pullover that I bought for 40 or 50 pounds. In fact, let me go get it.
Moments later.
Alright, I'm back with not just one pullover, which is the one in question that I mentioned. This is from Lucy and Lola shop, by the way. Got one with Pebbles, my Pomsky, who's sleeping on the floor outside. And then I've got this one, not exactly the same, but also a nice pullover from Wilson that I got recently in New York. Similar kind of neckline and all that. At least they had the audacity to put Wilson on it. Could we at least have gotten a big Chanel over the chest? But no, it's as basic as they come. It's Shein pieces at Chanel prices. And this has got me heated because I think that they look at us as absolute suckers. This is not a good spend of money, guys. Anyway, I've talked about this pullover far too long. Let's talk the second look, which is the Babe Paley one. I really like this one, okay? This is sharp Chanel tailoring at its finest. Clean lines. Love the turtleneck. Love the jacket. Wish there was more of this. Very strong silhouette. Love the shoulders. The whole look, everything, the beehive is classic. It's never going to go out of style. Number 3. Bit lackluster, looks like pajamas. Again, this could be Zara, this could be Shein for all you know. Bags are all right, I suppose. Necklace is nice. Number 4, look, even though I'm not a leopard girly, I'm not a very out there kind of girl anyway, I think this print is really nice. And this is one of the examples whereby you can push the envelope a little bit with Chanel branding. You know, with this bold print, I don't think Chanel really does animal prints, but we have the Chanel tailoring and you've got a bit of tweed detail, it looks like. Same with number 5. Saw that in the catwalk video. Love this. Also very Christmassy, very festive. And I love the tweed suit. The colour is delicious. Tinsel almost like piping. It's really great. Bag's also cute. Now this one, is the whole look in its entirety my favourite? No. So leather coat is really, really nice, but why did they have to wear it with this red untucked silk shirt? Could you at least have tucked it in? I know they're trying to go for streetwear, but it just looks very unkempt. Okay, number 7, a classic dress. Is it Chanel? Not particularly. I mean, it's got a few pearls, but they look a bit like ovaries. I don't know why they've put them on there. I don't know what 8 is. It looks like, you know, when you go to like Lapland or something and you get those winter thermals, it looks like that, merino wool thermals. So it doesn't really have a cohesive story throughout the collection. Number 9, I mean, it looks very DIY. I could have tied a red towel around my chest, but could I charge $5,000 for it? Probably not. 10, again, this is something I can find on Zara. And this looks frumpy as hell. I don't know what that is. 11, okay, not really the most standout piece. Also not the worst, but what are those boots? It's giving Astro Boy. 12, again, very confusing. Not sure what that is. 13 is okay. 14, you look like a flaming hot Cheeto. 15, again, Abercrombie could do a look that's better than this with the double denim, it looks like. 16, look, I love New York shirts, are always going to be having a special place in my heart, especially given the location of this showing. The tweed suit is nice, but the way they've paid it is really not doing it for me. 17, average. 18, what the hell are these arms? It's giving Big Bird and Elmo having a love child. 19, okay, the jacket, the overall look is actually pretty nice. 20, frumpy cardigan. The skirt's nice though, bag as well, and I'm sure the jacket in her hand is quite nice. And then you've got these very much Hunger Games, the Capitol dresses that are happening here. Need I say much more? But this is not Chanel. This is almost a caricature of what the brand should be. 23, you know, there are some nice qualities there, but it is giving streetwalker. 24 is okay. Nothing to write home about. 25, again, looks like one of those Hunger Games capital moments. Now, 26, I don't know what this face net thing is. I thought COVID was done, but apparently we're still going to do that. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of leather jackets, some feathers, some metallics as well, especially with the kind of metallic trim of the tweed or wool jackets. Then you've got some animal print. The brand identity of Metiers d'Art should not be this jumbled. Then you've got more random tartan and stripes. And actually, I will say, speaking of stripes, this suit is quite nice. I would wear a suit like this. 40 is also nice. I like that. That's very classic, you know. And then you've got some nicer dresses, like 41. It's not giving Chanel by any means, but it is nice. And my goodness, they've churned out a lot of looks. There is now Tony the Tiger. We've got the flakes, isn't it? What I want to see are the fun bags. Actually, I've seen some. After all these check prints, we've seen an acorn bag. So I think that was an homage to Madagascar, the movie, because they obviously escape the New York Zoo and they go through the subway and stuff like that. So that was one of the homages, I think. And they had a squirrel bag. They also had a giraffe bag. Because one of the characters was giraffe. In fact, here's the squirrel. And it even has the fur going up the side, which is a fun touch. So that is the whimsy that I do like, okay? This is something that marries up the old with the new. Then you've got an apple, which, you know, big apple. This is a very little apple. This is going to end up in the sale, okay? Or just not produce at all. Quality over quantity should matter here. Let's not just be churning out word count for the sake of hitting the number. And this is what it feels like. This feels like fashion salad. What is this cape, okay? This is giving Grim Reaper. This is not really Chanel, is it? We're just gonna keep going. Nothing is catching my eye in a good way. Then you've got a funeral outfit. Now this sweater is quite nice, this Chanel sweater. I'd be in for that once it goes on the sale. I don't even know what this is. Okay, it's giving wizard. Then we've got more leopard prints and things. Now these are quite nice. Now, would I wear these? No. But would I like to look at them? And do I think they're nice? Yes, I do. And oh my gosh, we have 80 looks, 80 plus looks. We're still going. They also released a new slouchy Chanel classic flap, which I think they're trying to appeal to the more unisex, you know, male audience especially, because while Chanel will not do a menswear line in the same way as other fashion houses, they have got new ambassadors like A$AP Rocky, and there are some nice handbags in here, but of course they have not released many close-up pictures. What is this? Oh, there's a peanut one. Forgot to show you that. It's not really what I thought would come to mind with an evening gown to start it with peanut. Obviously more photos and things will come out. I'm sure different pieces will get substituted in as the collection actually goes on general sale in a few months' time. But obviously, as you can tell, I just don't think it is true to the Chanel code. I've just not felt the compulsion to buy from this brand recently. Now, there are a bunch of factors, don't get me wrong, cost of living and just my collection being already as built out as it is and being able to find pieces that are from lower to mid-tier brands that, you know, could fill the void of seasonal items or classic pieces or whatnot at a lower price point. Those things being true, typically I can always get tempted in. With Chanel recently, I just had no desire to get any of the items. Metiers d'Art is typically the collection that I can get tempted in by. I think a couple of my bags, the Coco handle that's here was from Metiers d'Art. I think this handbag, the beautiful gold single flat bag with the pearl detail, was a Metiers d'Art collection. Chanel has very strong codes, distinct brand identity cues. Like I mentioned, the tweed, pearl, camellias, the wool, the monochrome, flat bags, okay? The double CCs. And Karl Lagerfeld did an amazing job at evolving the brand, pushing it forward, but without erasing its core identity, because that is ultimately why we are buying from Chanel and not any of the other myriad of luxury fashion brands. You still knew when you saw the pieces, even if they were in crazy locations and whatnot, even if there were some crazy pieces, it was still instantly recognizable as Chanel. And while Blazy's approach, and sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Blazy, potato, I'm not French, so don't come at me for this one. While his approach is minimal, it's modern, it comes from his Raf Simons roots, his Bottega roots. I believe he's also at Maison Margiela. But ultimately, it risks for Chanel in particular looking like every other brand out there. that's worrying, I think, for the Chanel customer, because Chanel has a very distinct visual language and code, like I mentioned, and people buy Chanel for that specific look. So if you stop producing it collection to collection, people will stop tuning in. Although they had generally rave reviews, as I'm sure all fashion publications will, because they need their advertisers, and who is the biggest advertiser? Chanel is one of them. I still hope that there would be some influencers or individuals that would be pretty honest about this, but they want to sit front row, or they want to have gifting and be invited to all these events, so they're keeping their mouths shut. On the Purse blog, it is stunning to see that everybody is pretty much speaking and singing from the same hymn sheet as I am, in that they're very confused. I've got a page open right now, people who are live tuning in. Looks like Bacteria, I think the one that I mentioned, the yellow one, and like, this is awful, and hate to say this, but my daily commute looks nicer in comparison. What are some of these outfits? The show was an absolute disaster. Underwhelming would be a huge understatement in my opinion. Didn't enjoy the set, theme or clothes. Hugely disappointed once again, like many others who are at the show. I think this would be my least favourite Metier d'Art of all time if this collection even looks like Metier d'Art at all. I could go on, and it just feels like the rest of the world, like the Capitol and Hunger Games, right? They're trying to make you not believe your own eyes with how garish some of these outfits look, with how confusing they look, and if you don't get it, that's a problem with you and your eyes, and you need to get them checked, not us. If you don't have the design, if you don't have the craftsmanship, does that really justify the price anymore? And what therefore are we paying for? Is it basically just the brand? And that's why, do you know what, I've always had comparatively different opinions on buying vintage, but I can see the appeal, and I do think going back into the archives and finding things that are in amazing condition, like even my Chanel vintage Kelly, it's basically pristine. This is a Japan exclusive. You know, I see the merit of doing this, and I can see myself eating my words a little bit and looking for beautiful vintage pieces that stand the test of time, that are priced fairly and also have impeccable quality. And I'm going to be wearing this until I am old and grey. Will I be wearing the Tony the Tiger or Bacteria outfit? Probably not. The collection was pretty lackluster. I was pretty disappointed, as are most of the other rational humans on earth that have seen this collection. I don't think, though, that this is a damning condemnation of what Matthieu Blazy can do. He wouldn't have risen up the ranks and gotten this prime times position at Chanel, which is so hard to get without that. He is clearly talented. There were some beautiful pieces in there and some standout accessories that I know are going to fly off the shelves. And I believe he can and does have what it takes to modernize and evolve the brand to new audiences. But that being said, it still needs to have an anchor. Youthful doesn't mean you are anonymous. And I think that's everybody's concern looking at this collection, is this a sign of more to come? Because we're not liking it. He needs to bring back the intentionality of theatre. The subway was cute. More could have been done to make the items more cohesive. I know they've done New York taxis in the past, but they could have made the I Heart New York shirt be like I Heart Chanel. Ultimately, the Metier d'Art collection is a showcase of craft. Even if they did jeans, they could have done really cool embroidered jeans with the CCs on them, or with taxi cabs, Statue of Liberty, a pizza slice. I don't know. They could have done all of that. I'm sure ChatGPT AI could have done a better show like that. And so maybe this is just a transitional phase while he gets his footing. We should give him a chance, obviously, but we have high hopes for upcoming collections, and we do hope that this is just an unfortunate blip. I feel like I have unloaded a lot of pent-up thoughts, because I haven't actually shared any thoughts of the new Chanel or Blazy's Chanel since he came on as creative director. Let me know, though, your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think Chanel's losing their identity, or do you love this new direction? I could be one of the few that just don't get the vibes, and if that's the case, you can let me know too, and maybe I'm just part of the archaic old guard. Anyways, I will leave this video here. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one.